Welcome to another edition of the Dean Legge Show here. It's Sunday night, August the 4th, Georgia's first Sunday of practice for the 2019 season. Thanks to everyone for joining. If you're listening for the first time or watching for the first time, I do this every Sunday night and every Tuesday night, typically. Sometimes things can change. So 2 practices already for the Dogs. I got a good chance to look at the outside linebackers on Saturday, wrote about that on dogpost, dawgpost.com. If you're listening to us on iTunes or watching on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, go on over to Dogpost right now. We've had a lot of, obviously a surge of subscriptions because of the content. It's been very good. And this team certainly looks, I would say, calm more than anything else. I don't know if Kirby is necessarily ever overwhelmingly calm. But it is a team that doesn't seem. I mean, the thing that keeps going around in my head is it looks like when we're at practice. I actually go to practices, right? So when you watch them, and I've watched them now for 19 years. This is my 19th year. It is different than in the past, only that it doesn't seem like you're trying to figure a bunch of stuff out all at once. Like, who's the quarterback going to be, or who's going to play, what 2 positions on the offensive line. I mean, Georgia has got a bounty of people in particular positions, and they have the ability to do what they want to do in many ways. I mean, the only spot that's really thin, the 2 spots are tight end and wide receiver. But wide receiver, I mean, if you all could see George Pickens live, you wouldn't. Physically, there's not really an issue there. He's very built. Obviously, the addition of Dominique Blaylock, and then the emergence of Matt Landers to go along with Tyler Simmons. They don't have a guy that seems right now walking into the season that's going to knock it out of the park. But Pickens is a guy to watch for sure. Fromm yesterday was up and down. I don't think it matters at all what he looks like during a 15-minute practice period that we see. He's proven himself. He knows what he's doing. But the overwhelming feel that I get more than anything is that it just feels like this is going to be a long season, and you can't win it in August. You could lose it. I mean, you could lose it with the loss of Fromm or Swift or Andrew Thomas. They could survive. They wouldn't win the national championship. They could survive without Swift. They could survive without Andrew Thomas. If you lose Jake Fromm, you're in uncharted waters. But this team is more stout than it looked like they were in the past. They are certainly. It is noticeable that they are different looking physically. And I saw kind of a. Where that's like a joke amongst people who think that people say that all the time. I mean, I wouldn't say that you could really say that about Georgia in the last 5 years, 10 years. This is a season that you can notice they're bigger, no doubt about it. And part of that is because this is the 3rd full cycle of recruiting that Kirby has had. Not, Jacob and them was like a half cycle in 2016, but now you've had 17, 18, 19. They're all in there. I mean, it's hard to really compare George Pickens to, D'Amico Goodman, or George Pickens to receivers from the past, because he's just so much more physically larger. And the receivers are big guys too. They're tall. There's not a lot of Rantavius Wootons out there. So, Tavares King didn't look like this when he came in. And TK has had a long career in the NFL after Georgia. I mean, for not being a superstar in the NFL, TK's done pretty well. So guys, Michael Bennett, Chris Conley, they didn't really look like this coming in. And then also, too, you look at Zamir. Zamir seems bigger. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's always been that big. He didn't look that big when I watched him in high school. But anyway, getting off the point, let's listen to what Kirby had to say momentarily about the strength and conditioning program that is at Georgia right now with Scott Sinclair and his bunch.
We've had a really good conditioning off-season session. some really good bars kind of hit from a max standpoint in summer conditioning, and want to give a lot of credit to Scott Sinclair and his staff. You know, they do tireless work during the summer, and we don't get to see a lot of it because our players are on a little different schedule, but our guys have been excited to get started for camp, and Scott's staff did a great job working with them. It's very time intensive. Sometimes they have to have 4 and 5 workouts a day with different groups, so they're repeating the same workouts, and our strength staff's by far the best in the country, in my opinion, at what they do.
I'm not sure if I'm qualified to know who the best strength and conditioning group is in the country, but I do know this. I have ties in the strength and conditioning community, and from day one, the consensus was that Kirby had done the right thing getting who he got, and you didn't have to get everyone from Alabama to come over. So Sinclair is certainly gotten Georgia where they want to go, at least for the time being. Moving forward, tomorrow on Monday, we're going to get Dan Lanning and James Coley, not James Comey, as I consistently incorrectly write and hopefully catch half the time. But James Coley is the new offensive coordinator at Georgia. He was at Miami, I think it was, or Florida State. He was at Florida State. But he's got South Florida roots and has been important in Georgia's run game. Doubled his salary from 2017 into 18 for turning down the job with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. So Coley will speak to organized media for the first time since he's been at Georgia. I mean, the only other time that I'm aware of that James Coley's been made available to speak was during the Rose Bowl, and I'm not sure even about the national championship game, and that's when they're required to speak. So we'll see what James has to say tomorrow. Dan Lanning, we've heard from him before. He had the relatively challenging task of getting what was a completely new defense for Georgia against Texas and putting it together within 2 weeks or so for the Sugar Bowl. Mel Tucker had left. Mel and Mike Bobo will play one another here on a Friday night coming up to start the season soon. So Mel departed for Colorado. I don't know why other schools didn't give him a chance, but he did get that shot at Colorado, and that moved Dan Lanning up, and he became the defensive coordinator at Georgia, a young defensive coordinator. If you look at this staff at Georgia, this is a young staff. I mean, Todd Hartley, I don't even know if he's certainly not 35. Well, he might be 35, but he's not old, and not a lot of them are over 40. Well, not many of them are over 50, that's for sure. So it's a young staff. It's about recruiting. And let me talk just for a second here. Let me show you what Kirby had to say about someone who has been one of the most important assistant coaches over time at Georgia, which is Dell McGee, the running backs coach, the former Carver Columbus coach who had Isaiah Crowell and Jarvis Jones, who is back around at Georgia. Let's hear what he had to say about Dell just the other day.
Well, he's a great person for me to lean on. He's a guy that has been a head coach at the high school level. He's done a head coaching short stint there at Georgia Southern when he took over for the bowl game. He's very wise. He can relate to the players. He's a great recruiter, very knowledgeable with making adjustments on offense. So he's been a huge bonus for me personally. And when I'm not here, he's usually the guy in charge.
Well, Dell is a very important coach, and that Kirby leaves him in charge most of the time tells you how important that he really is. A couple other things here. If you've not gone to Dog Post lately, $2 for the first 2 months is going right now. That deal is not going to last forever, and judging by the amount of people signing up, they're happy with what they're getting. Go to Dog Post right now. Read what we were hearing. We've got updates on guys like Zach Evans, the 5-star running back out of Houston. Noah Soul from Utah, just a quick blurb about him, and Tank Bigsby, etc. Obviously, we brought you the Kendall Milton announcement on Monday, and he will go. Tank will go on Friday. I'm not sure the details of that quite yet. We'll see if I need to be there or not. My suspicion is I will not need to be there, but go read what we're hearing. There's a lot of insight and takes in there. I'm watching out of the corner of my eye the Braves. They had quite a few heroic plays last night in that 10-inning game. Then they lost today, the Reds. I haven't really watched the Braves in some time just because growing up, obviously they were a huge deal. But for me over time, just moving to Cobb County really rubbed me the wrong way. I know that. There was nothing wrong with Turner Field at all. But that's another story and another soapbox for another day. We're going to continue to give you coverage. I know we'll be able to see Georgia practice on Tuesday. I'm not sure about Monday. I think probably not on Monday. And I'm not sure quite when we'll get Kirby again. But in the meantime, there's been a lot going on Dog Post, obviously, dawgpost.com. We've got interviews with guys like Jake Fromm, DeAndre Swift, etc. So stay tuned to all that. We'll have more guys later in the week. I don't know who we get on Tuesday. I think we get offense on Tuesday. I've got to run the Rodrigo video as well, which I've not had a chance to do quite yet. So stay tuned to Dog Post, dawgpost.com. If you knock on there, there's a link below. If you're on Twitter, you should just mosey on over there right now. Dean Legge wrapping up the Dean Legge Show for Sunday night, August 4th, 2019. We'll see you on the flip side.